use it, especially on the one that's inside here. Okay, you can use a file and clean it up. I simply just use a file, it's more my contrast, on the end, and I file the thing so it's nice and flat. Sorry, the sun is so bright right now. It's so flat that there's no chips. It is nice and squared. That's what you want to start with. This is my carburetor one. I had filed the sides of it on the shank so it's the same diameter all the way up through, so it fits inside there, and I keep that for my carburation screws. Okay. Another thing you're going to want to look at when you clean these carburetors is you're going to want to pop the carburetor bowl, the float off. See if I have something to pop that bowl off, that float off with. Remove the pin. Remove the float. And then right here is your needle and seat. You want to check the spring and make sure it retracts in and out and has a little bit of tension on it. If it goes in and stays in, see if I can push this in a little bit, stays in and does not come out, two things are going to happen. One, you're going to leak fuel out the carburetor when you put it together, and two, you will not be able to properly adjust the float. So keep that in mind. If your carburetor needle, if I can get that in my hand here. Okay, this is dirty, but the camera will not focus in this bright light. On the end of it has this the needle right there, the valve, and then this on this end right here is the tension right here, the spring tension for your float. Okay. So after you get that needle and seat all cleaned up and there's fuel flowing through it, you put your needle back in like so. You have your needle, this little tab right here rides on the needle. You can actually see the groove. There we go. You can actually see where the that little circle in the center of it is where the needle was riding on it. There's a brass floats, don't squeeze them in. This one's already been squeezed in. It looks like a little dent on one side, but it's alright. As long as it ain't leaking, if you can shake it and there's no fuel in it, and you don't see any cracks or splits, you gotta look for that. These things are very thin copper. Or brass. I don't know if it's brass or copper, I think it's copper. Whatever. Just make sure there's no cracking on it. Okay? And you cannot resolder these things. These things were very finely soldered. So you want to make sure that when you put it down on a surface that this whole bar and both of these fit flat. Okay, that it's not twisted or bent. That's how you test that. You put it on a flat level surface. This is not level, but I'm going to show you for example. Okay, you can't see any air underneath here, and both floats are resting on it firmly. If you look at it and both floats are level, you know, on the table, and there's a gap underneath your needle, you're not going to be able to adjust this float properly. So then you'd have to go ahead and finagle the float a little bit to manipulate to get it back to the point where it sits flat. And I see this a lot, very uncommonly detected. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, now I'm not getting enough fuel, but I adjusted my float. I've done it like 4 times. How come I cannot get a proper float adjustment? Well, check it on a flat table. You should not see any air underneath the bar where the pin goes through, and both floats should be firmly rested on the table. So that's how you check and see if your float is out of adjustment, like twisted. Not out of adjustment, but twisted. Okay. So after that's done, your tab is going to face down. So when you put that back in, your tab is going to face down. So if I can get the sun, I'm sorry about the sunlight, guys. It's supposed to be a hot one here in New Hampshire today. And put your pin back in the way it came out. I'm doing this one hand. Sorry for the camera. Oh, nope, that didn't go like that. Fits the two like that. Yep, right like that. Okay, and now the camera, the float is reattached. Okay, Now for the float adjustment. Your float should be sitting perfectly level, and there is a setting for this, but I'm going to show you how to adjust the float. You see that tab right there? Whenever you push on the tab, you're bringing the float up. Whenever you push the tab upward, you're bringing the float in. So you want to make sure they sit nicely. They should be perfectly level. You can see that or not. And it should be just on the top of the spring tension. When I push the spring tension in, it goes down further. Okay, these are already been set, so this is a good float. There is an adjustment for it. They use a ruler and they measure the 2mm part. Oh, not 2mm. Hold on, I'll show you. 1 second. Float valve seat, not available. 2.0, 2.0, 2.0. Not available. 2.0, 2.0. Okay, fuel level. There is no, what do you call it there? Here it is. Fuel level, all models, is going to be set to 4.0 plus or minus 1.0 millimeters on the Mikuni VM19SC, or on the other one is going to be 0.16 plus minus 0.04 inches. So you would use a ruler and you would measure that out for the level of the float. So 4 millimeters plus or minus a millimeter, and where they're measuring from. So anyway, okay, so what they're doing for the measurement is, see this the edge right here? They are measuring from the edge to the bottom of the bowl of the float, which is the way I was instructed to do it. However, I don't measure them that way. I don't find it to be an accurate measurement, and it's very, very hard to measure. I get it so it's nice and flat and level. So when the thing is all the way down like this, to full seat, I have a good margin, and when I let off of it, it's level. The float is level with this piece of carburetor right there, and I've never had an issue with it. Some people, you can do the measurement any way you want, but my carburetors don't leak, and they've always ran great. Never have an issue with them, and there is room for the float to move up and down with that measurement like that. But some are saying to measure it from here. It doesn't even tell you in the book where to measure it from, so I thought that was kind of weird. I've looked all over this thing. I'm going to take another look here for the float bowl. Fuel tank removal, carburetor, blah, blah, blah. Carburetor adjustment, page 8. Yeah, I've gone through this whole entire book and I have not seen where they adjust it from. So there's no page 8, unless it's under chapter 8. Hold on 1 second. 6, 8. Yeah, it might be under chapter 8. I'm not sure. I don't, like I said, I've never done them that way. Chapter 1, 2. Oh, let's go check that out. Maybe it's under there. Hold on. Let's see what they show you a picture. I never even checked for that. Hold on 1 second. Yep, showing you all that type of stuff. See, they don't show you in the book either where to, what do you call it there, to adjust it. They're just showing you how to assemble it. Carburetor adjustment. Okay, they meant section 8 there, okay. Oh. Alright, unfortunately, measuring the fuel level requires the use of a special service tool from Kawasaki part number. Okay, that's why. Looks like I have to get a special tool for that, but because the carburetor varies so much, which consists of a modified float chamber with a long clear plastic pipe attached to fit the end of the pipe. And finally graduate in the all machine Marconi carburetors. Okay, well, I've never done it that way, because that's just a whole bunch of hoopla. So if you do it my way, you will not leak, your carburetor will work just fine, and you'll have no issues. And I've been doing this for quite a long time, and that's the way I've done them. Some people have different methods. That's okay. If you do have a different method, I would really appreciate you sharing it. I've got plenty of bikes, and I would love to try it out on. So that's it for the float adjustment. I just get the float level. So it's leveled, straight up leveled on the spring tension, not compressed leveled. So when it's like that, it should be sitting just like that, nice and level. And I have never had an issue with these carburetors doing it that way. So, and let's see, so we covered float, we've covered mixtures. I showed you the different airports. I showed you where the metering on the metering valve is on the slide. You really just want to make sure these things are really clean, and you can blow through all the jets. Make sure you don't bend your mixture, your needle mixture, and make sure your whole unit box is sealed up. And then if you do all those steps, you will have yourself a good running bike. You also want to make sure that you take out your oh, here's another one that's overlooked, your choke. I've had a couple of bikes where you'd be sitting there idling them, and 1 minute they'd be idling fine, you start it up the next day and the bike is racing, and like, why the hell, the choke is off, why is the bike racing? And then you twist it, like, you know, twist the valve like that, and it stops. So make sure you something else you want to inspect. On the end of your, I got two types of plungers. I got the plunger without the cable, and I have a cable activated plunger where you can actually use it on your handlebars, a remote choke. You're going to want to check that rubber on the end. They all have grooves on them, you know, just the nature of them. But sometimes debris builds up or gets stuck inside that and they don't seat properly. So you want to definitely check that. Also too, on these carburetors right here, that your throttle cable slides right out. On the earlier bikes, like the 70s, they had this. They had this little setup right here, this little gizmo. In order to get the throttle cable out, you had to undo that pin, that clip. You pop that clip up and the cable would slide right out. So that's the early style right there. You can see that really well or not. But it's a pretty cool feature. I mean, it locks the cable and so the cable can't slide back up. It's a nice solid system. I mean, it's nice to have a positive locking cable in there, which requires a special cable. You can't just use it on a regular cable. So it requires a special throttle cable. When you buy the updated cable, it does not come with that. So keep that in mind. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I mean, make sure your jets are cleared out. Oh, I can touch base on something else. How do I know what jet I have in my carburetor? Well, this camera really sucks. You're not going to be able to see this, but if you clean up right on the top, the number, you can look in a magnifying glass and you'll be able to see it. The number is stamped right on the jet. So you'll be able to know what jet you have in your carburetor just by using a magnifying glass and look at it. So that's pretty much it. So make sure it's clean. Make sure you get all your plugs. There's a gasket on it when you put it back together, or you'll be doing this again. If you have a jet that is stuck and starting to strip out, first things first, check your screwdriver and make sure the ends of it are not rounded off. Okay, it should be a crisp, squared squared screwdriver. Second, after you get it all squared off, let me show you a little trick. Take the carburetor, clamp it between your legs, your thighs, however you want to do it. Take your screwdriver, set it into where it locks into the best it can. Locks into the jet. Pull it with a little bit of downforce. Take the butt end of another screwdriver and tap with some really good, like, I'm talking type hits. Not like a Hannibal Lecter, like, ah, ah, ah. No, what that's going to do with a nicely filed screwdriver is the screwdriver is going to cut into the brass. The vibration is going to loosen it up. You're going to want to spray some lubricant in there prior to that, though, to penetrate. So you're going to have a couple things going for you. You're going to be cutting into your groove with a better screwdriver. You're going to be impacting it. Same way you take off the screws here. The impact right there will shock it loose. And if it doesn't work, simply do it longer. Just be careful not to, don't use a hammer unless you're really good with a hammer. But I prefer just to use the butt end of another screwdriver. It seems to be just enough to, not something you're going to be like, oh my God, get out. Just take your time, keep working it, let it soak. If it doesn't come right out, take your time, get her done. And that's pretty much how you do the carburetor on a KE100, a KD80, KD100, KM100, all the G models. So you have, there's a lot of information here. I hope this video helps you. I know I'm kind of all over the place talking about the airbox, with the grommets, all the different things, but take your time. Use your camera phone, mark where stuff goes, what notch it's in. This is obviously in the wrong one, should be in the third. Just all those type of things. The specifications are on my thing. Pause it, see if you can expand the video to see the page better if you can. And whenever you ask someone in a forum what your main jet should be, keep in mind that different year makes and models require different jetting, and the jet information that they're going to give you is the jet for their particular bike. It may not be the same for yours, as opposed to this carburetor right here looks just like this carburetor, but both carburetors take a different needle jet. Fortunately, right across the board they're setting number 3, but on some bikes might not be. You know what I mean? And if they bought a jet kit and the bike was jetted differently, you don't know. So you got to check all that. You got to do your homework and your research, because a carburetor is going to determine your performance of your bike. It's basically the heartbeat of the bike. If this thing right here runs like shit, your bike is going to run like shit. It's that simple. So make sure that you do your settings properly, you clean it thoroughly, and adjust it properly. And that's pretty much it for these carburetors. And I found a new tool that I'm going to order and get that coming in, so I can see the way they're doing these jets, because these floats. I've always leveled them off and I've never had an issue. So, but I can see if your float is too far down, you're letting too much fuel in. If your float is down this way, it's not letting enough in. So you have to, you got to get a happy medium. And you don't want the thing to sit at the bottom either, And also too, like I said, it depends on the year of your bike. These have come through with this style carb. And also too, the information's on the top of this one. This is a 3J1. I don't know what the hell that is. I didn't even know it's that in the book. But if you, like I said, if you want to get a carburetor bowl with a drain on it, right at the bottom, you're going to look for the Suzuki KE100. Has the same carburetor, and you can buy the bowl for one of those if you can find one, which I'm sure they're on eBay. That would have the drain. Or if you want to take the drain off of it, drill yours out, you can do that. Not recommended, just in case. But see this little hole right here in the front? That's for the KE100. It's crazy. They use the same carburetor on different bikes. Who knew? A lot of people thought they were just exclusive, but nope. It's used on the KE100. The motor's different, but the general setup is the same. If you look at it, it's pretty cool. It's got the rotary valve engine just like this, carburetor same spot. It's got a lot of the same type of stuff. So a lot of stuff are compatible. It's crazy. But as always, thank you for watching. I really appreciate the comments, and by all means, if you guys have any information, I'm asking you to put them on my what do you call it there, on my page. And I could definitely, the more information we have, the more we can work together and get these bikes running even better, because there's not much out there on these bikes. We're basically stuck with a Haynes manual and a Chilton manual, and they're like, this is a carburetor bowl, that's the top, you know, retainer, you know what I mean, that's a kickstarter, that's a brake lever, you know what I mean. So as far as specifications, it's very difficult, you know, to get information on these older two-strokes. And as a community of two-strokers, we should be sticking together, you know. So by all means, send that information my way. Put it on my page so everybody can see it, and I appreciate that very, very much. I hope this video helps you out with your bike. And just remember, cleanliness is next to godliness when it comes to carburetors. The cleaner your carburetor is, the more better fuel can flow through. And make sure those jets are clean. Make sure your carburetor, your floats aren't cracked. Your needle and seats is clean. And you get a good carburetor cleaner. Clean them, soak them. The nice thing about having a carburetor that's not exposed to the elements, the outside's typically cleaner than most carburetors, which is nice. And they don't ingest the dirt if they're sealed up properly. So make sure you got your grommets, you got your fittings, you got your plugs, you got your drains, you got all that type of stuff on there. It's worth the $5 to buy this if it's gonna save your engine from filling up with fuel. You see what I'm saying? So those things matter. So plugs matter. Plugs lives matter. Make sure you use your plugs and your grommets and put the bike to the original specifications so the bike will run as desired, and then do all your performance adjustments afterwards. And your idle mixture screws on these ones, if you see that little plug, it's there. It just moves off to the side like the newer bikes. On my KE100, I don't have the plug on the side there. My screw's right there, just exposed, because I have a newer style carburetor. It looks just like that without the Welch plug, and the screw is exposed. That's it. So your jetting, your float setting, your what do you call it there, make sure all your grommets are on there, and you should be good to go. Remember, this screw right here is set to 1.5, but that's not set it and forget it. That's set it, see how the bike runs, and then do all your final adjustments. You may only need to go a quarter turn either direction. That's just the primary adjustment for that. So it's not the stand, you know, that's why it's adjustable. So you can put it in, back it off at 1.5, and then adjust it from there. So as always, please subscribe. I hope this video helps, and thank you. Thank you for watching.